Hello, I'm Hunty, and this is an interview for my music zine. In this interview, I'll be talking to my friend Will, who releases music under the title Scuttlefuzz. They just released a full-length album in August of 2023. So we'll primarily be talking about that release as well as production, inspiration, process of that album and their music in general. And after a brief transition, we'll talk about trickyStoop, which is Will's cassette tape label. We'll be talking about how they got started with that label, how they operate it, and just general music stuff after that point. But I'll check in after before we get into all that. So enjoy the first part of this interview. I would love to start by hearing what you've been listening to lately, and what your favorite release this year is so far.
Oh yeah, for sure. I guess lately, I've been listening to I guess a lot of music made by furries. Beyond that, I am the kind of person who tends to have an album on repeat for years and years and years. And then we'll just kind of incorporate newer stuff every once in a while, and then that'll stick around for a while. So I think lately what I've been listening to the most is probably Kendall. I think maybe one of my favorite releases this year so far has been her new EP, which I've just been really, really into, Grace. Other than that, the new Japanese house I've been super into. I've been listening to a lot of kind of minimal electro pop stuff, like Grace Ives recently too. Just a lot of cool electronic pop stuff.
Yeah, I mean
that tends to be my vibe.
Yeah, that sounds right up your alley for sure. That's really cool. Makes a lot of sense. I totally feel you on listening to albums for a while and just kind of slowly integrating things as they stick with you. And definitely big on Kendall's new release. I feel like I heard that first track and was immediately this is one of my favorite songs of the year. It's so good.
It just
punches
you in the face
it
immediately.
Really,
it's great.
It really does. It's such a good way of putting it for sure. So regarding Ghost, your new 10-track album, is this your debut album, full-length album as Scuttlefuzz, or because I know you put out some other stuff an EP before?
Yeah. So this is, I guess, technically the first album. I think, if you go by what the internet, catalogs things as, when I upload things to, streaming services, I think it says that I have, 3 EPs and an album, but I really consider, us having released, 1 EP and 1 album so far.
Very cool. How's the reception been so far? It's been, a couple weeks, right?
Yeah, it's been pretty good. I am fortunate in that I feel like I've built up an audience on Bandcamp specifically. When it had come out, I really didn't have very many expectations for it, because I'm very bad at promoting things. I'm bad at promoting myself. But no, it's been good. I've heard pretty good things. I try to avoid searching things up, but usually if someone is commenting on something or sending you a DM, it tends to be pretty nice. So
yeah, that's good. That's a good way of approaching it, because I know just can be a lot of different opinions on the internet, so it's good to just kind of let them come to you, because usually the things that are probably being sent to you are most likely good.
Yeah, and this also felt like the first like fully realized Scuttlefuzz thing, because I did not work on all of the lyrics myself this time. I've been working with my friend Emmy, who I consider like the other part of the band. So
Yeah,
it's been like really cool to just like push this out finally.
yeah, absolutely. Can you talk more about how Emmy has been involved in this project, or like specifically with Ghosts and then as Scuttlefuzz as a whole?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess they started out just like doing the art. I think I'd come across him on Twitter in like 2017. Because when I started making music, I was like, I want to find a person who will do all of the artwork, like be like the Jamie to like my Damon, like Gorilla style, because I wanted to have like a very like consistent visual aesthetic. So I reached out to Emmy, and we just kind of became friends while doing this. And then I think after Keychain was released in like 2021, they started sending me like poetry, like a lot of like stream of consciousness stuff, and I like really wanted to get them more involved with it. So we just started taking like lines from their poems and just like incorporating them into songs, which I love because it's very hard for me to come up with lyrics. So it was just a really like interesting way to approach making music that I hadn't really done before.
That is really cool. I didn't realize that they had that much involvement in the project, because I mean, it's really cool to see all the cohesive artwork, and I love that you took that approach. And I had no idea that Emmy was involved like that. So that's really cool that it is like a really collaborative project.
I think
enjoyed that. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think on Ghosts they pretty much wrote like most of the lyrics for two of the tracks. So I think Outside and Together, they're like the main writer for those.
Awesome. That's really cool, because I feel like those two kind of specifically stood out to me. So that's really cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. I guess piggybacking on that, I think Outside was the first one that I kind of attached myself to, because that was one of the singles that you released beforehand, right?
Yeah, I think that was the first one.
Yeah. So I got really hyped for that song in particular. I was wondering, because I almost got like some Owl City vibes from the production on that song. I was wondering like what kind of inspirations you take as far as like maybe some core inspirations, maybe some older stuff that led you to the kind of like electronic indie music area, if you have anything like that.
This is a question that I have found kind of difficult to answer in the past. I think that I had like at one point been like, man, I wish that people could like teach me how to really think about my influences, because I didn't have an answer to this. But I think the more that like you work on something, you kind of get to like be a bit introspective about it. So I would say like definitely, I guess what has been the main inspiration going through with this is like a lot of the like music that I was listening to in like middle school, high school. So and also things that I'm still listening to, because like I said, I tend to just keep the same albums on repeat oftentimes. So a lot of like the kind of like softer like electronic pop music from like Frou Frou, like Details, I think is like a perfect album. There's an electropop group, Avoix Simone, that I like am in love with, I'm obsessed with. I found out recently that they use or have used a pocket piano, which is like one of the only synths that I own, and I was like, okay, this was meant to be.
Yeah, you're doing
awesome.
something right. Yeah. Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, I think I've heard the comparison to stuff like Owl City, or like I think a couple of people have like said like Sufjan Stevens, or like Baths, which is always kind of funny to me, because I don't, well, with the exception of like Baths, I don't, or hadn't at the time, really listened to either of those artists.
Oh, interesting.
I think that the things that people pull from that are kind of my acapella background, because the way that I would arrange for acapella when I was in college was to like just do like a lot of like like vocal cascades, or like arpeggios like repeating over and over again, which kind of went into when I was teaching myself how to play ukulele, like doing like finger plucking, or I would like sample clips of my voice to make like over and over again like repeating cascades, like kind of like an outside. So it was kind of just like almost happenstance that those two things sort of converged. But yeah, now I listen to them and I'm like, oh, okay, I see it. This is also pretty cool. I've been missing out.
Oh, that's awesome. It's cool when people bring in new inspiration that might not have even been there to begin with. That's very cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Tell me more about you did acapella in college?
Yeah, so I was part of the like mid 2010s like acapella craze, I guess. I feel like acapella had like a cultural moment. So yeah, I was in like chorus in high school, and then I was like, I want to harmonize with people still, and acapella was like the thing. So I did that for 3 years, and it was really nice. And then when I finished, I was like, I still want to make music, but I don't have 14 other people to like work with anymore. Let me figure that out.
Yeah. So did you take like sort of routes to like utilize harmony in that sort of way? Like, did you learn some things from doing a cappella that you feel like you kind of integrated into your music production?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't really know. I would say that like as far as like music theory kind of stuff, or like the way that I like structure like chords, that kind of thing, or more like the process.
I mean, anything. If it's composition, layering vocals with, your just different recorded tracks that you record on your own or with other people, or it could be production wise, like kind of stacking vocals with like chord, like modulator things and stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah. Thinking about it, I guess I would say that like maybe the one thing that I kind of came away with that I really, really enjoy are like, as far as like arrangement stuff, like I like to use like, less so on this album, but more so in like my earlier music when I was still like transitioning from like being a cappella brained, things like major seconds. Like I love like just like crunchy, like dissonant, like not even necessarily chords, just like these are a lot of notes and they're all playing at the same time. And they may or may not be notes that came out of my mouth that I chopped and stretched out because I didn't know how to use MIDI. But I guess maybe the larger inspiration from that was when I started making music on my own. I even to this day don't really know my way around a DAW that well. I think I downloaded like a free DAW. I forgot what it was called, maybe Reaper. And I kind of talked about this in the Anthrocon panel too, where like I didn't know how MIDI worked, but I could hold a note and I knew how to like cut and paste. So I would just like record a lot of clips of myself singing things and just like make chords out of that, or like arrange it so that it would make like an arpeggio, or like just cascade and like just loop that and work with that. So even though I'm a little more proficient in production, I think a lot of that earlier like limited experience kind of carried through, because my arrangements are pretty minimal, I'd say.
Yeah, I think so. I definitely can see how that would have like brought on kind of a start to the way you approach, making electronic music, because a lot of it is so like centered around starting from what you have on your computer. So coming from someone that is just like all like vocals, like vocal harmonies, and no instrumentation in the at least the acapella stuff. It's cool to see kind of like how that may have influenced how it brought you to this point. It's cool.
Yeah, I even like thinking back, I had like very weird limitations on what I felt I was and wasn't allowed to do. So like, and I've loosened up on this a lot, but like I would refuse to use samples, including like percussion samples. But what was okay in my brain at the time was to like go around and hit things and just like record that on my phone and like chop up those clips because I felt like, oh, okay, it counts because I'm making it.
Mm-hmm.
Or like I at the time was like really obsessed with this like looper performer musician named Julia Easterlin, who I saw at like the ICCA one year. It's like an acapella like competition. She was she had done a performance. She wasn't competing, but she had done a performance. And I was like, I want everything to be either like a percussion sample that I recorded myself or my voice. So I made very heavy use of like a sampler and like pitching myself down like 2 octaves to make a bass line. Yeah, so
Oh, wow.
I have since loosened up. I remember it being such a big deal when I got my first like synth, and even now, like I don't really use software synths. I like to like slowly incorporate little cute hardware synths into my setup. But at the time, I was like, oh my god, this doesn't feel right. But
Yeah, I totally relate to that. I feel like it's definitely got to be a thing, because I've totally been in that position of like it's all got to be my own, like I have to make it with my hands, and it needs to be sounds that I made, not like from the internet or something. It's an interesting approach that like I feel like a lot of people kind of take with music production
and
when
then
they're
you get
first
over
starting
yourself
off.
and you realize that it makes things a lot easier. Like sample libraries are good, actually.
Yeah. You can make them your own just by playing them and like manipulating them in the way that feels right for you. Absolutely. Okay, so let's jump kind of back into the collaborative stuff, because you it seems like you did a lot or considerably amount with this release, as far as including other people. I know, I mean, as far as just the features on this album, June Lalonde on Boy, playing guitar, right?
Yes. Yeah, she got that back to me in like a day. I was like, oh my god, this is amazing.
That's awesome. And then Gabu is lost on Comfort. I love the little like motifs in that song, especially like kind of towards the end. It feels very much like a Gabu signature at this point, like having those little kind of like twinkly little melodies that he includes on things. How did how did that whole process working together on that song go?
Oh, it was like I say surprisingly very smooth, just because when I like have collaborated with people in the past, I don't do it very often, but I find that the two of us like work together pretty well. And
nice.
I had sent him like a demo of Comfort that it was pretty much just the the vocal lines, some pads, and then like a really like cheap sounding drum loop. And I was like, make this sound like a Gabu's Lost song, but still kind of inexpensive feeling. Because and then they sent me back like a first version, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. It doesn't sound like me anymore though. So then we like kind of like went back and forth for like a week. But yeah, it turned out pretty good. I'm super happy with it. I think he's a genius.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. That's really cool that you like kind of went back and forth with it after that first take, because I'm sure it can be kind of what's the word, kind of like easy to just be like, oh yeah, this is a great collaboration, thank you for your service, and just like run with it. But it's cool that you like recognize like, oh yeah, this is like not exactly what I am, so like let's work together and kind of like ping pong it back and forth until it like sounds like something that would come from both of us, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I guess I could sort of credit him with that kind of approach too, because the first collab that we'd ever done was for Friends, when he was asking me to like contribute like some like ukulele and vocals, and I had sent him something and he was like, okay, cool, what else do you have? And I was like, all right, nice, let's actually work this out. So I feel like we have a relationship where we can kind of like really iterate on something. And I think that's kind of what you need.
Absolutely. That's definitely, especially with someone that's like, because he did like production stuff, so like I feel like there's a lot that goes into that, kind of past just like featuring someone as far as like playing an instrument on a track or something. It's like you're kind of both like producing the song itself, so having it blend in with all your other songs on this album, making it sound cohesive, while also like featuring what Gabu like has to offer, is like, I'm sure it was like kind of a like a fun challenge probably.
Oh yeah, it was great. And like when I had gotten it back, I was like, I want us to definitely collaborate more. I guess,
yeah,
kind of off topic, but I had been thinking, as far as like the Scuttlefuzz project, I wanted to at least get an album out, because I don't know, I've been finding as I like work more on like behind the scenes stuff, as far as like label work goes, that I get more enjoyment out of that. I find the release of music kind of like a really stressful process.
For sure.
But hearing like his take on like demos that I sent him, I was like, all right, this is really exciting. I would want to do this more. Like it kind of like reinvigorates you. I guess that's why people do collabs.
Yeah.
It's just fun to like work off of other people.
Absolutely. I know from doing mostly writing with bands, with multiple people, it's I feel like it takes a lot less of that stress off when you're kind of bouncing things off of people, and it's not all like, this is all in my head and now it's going to be released to the world. Like there's a lot of stress behind that. So it's it definitely can help to have some like solid collaborators to help kind of carry that burden, I guess, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's really cool. I'm excited to see kind of how you go forward with it and everything. It'll be cool to hear more collaboration with y'all. It's very exciting. Also noticed it was like co-produced Ode. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, I think it's Ode. That's one of those things that like you don't really say out loud, but you just
You just kind of read it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How were they involved in this project?
So they mixed the album, they mastered it, and in the process of mixing, they would like. I kind of see them as like more than just mixing the tracks when we work together. I have been working with them since my friend Emmy's senior like thesis animation memory box. Like we had worked together. They kind of like jumped on the project and started doing like the mixing, and I was like, wow, I've never heard my music sound like this before, because I'm not very good at mixing. And when we worked together on Keychain, I would send them demos that I thought were like very simplistic. Like I just could not imagine like the things that they were able to do to them. Like they just added like a little bit of weirdness into it. And as we were like going back and forth with the mixing process, we had decided that like they really should be credited as like a co-producer, because just in the little experiments that they do when putting things together, I feel like it really is like the last piece of making a song. At least for me, like I count them as like really like integral to the process. So it's just like the way like they would like phase things, or like just the addition of like an effect or just like a well-placed echo, I feel just like really takes what would otherwise be a pretty simple arrangement and just adds like a little bit of interest to it. It's a completely different song. When I had released Keychain, I decided to at some point just put up the demos for that on SoundCloud, because I was listening to them after like a year and I was like, wow, yeah, I feel like people should hear like what I give O'Day, what I give Rory, and like what the final piece is, because it really does sound very different.
Okay, interesting. I'll have to check those out. I don't think I've heard those, so I'd love to see kind of how the how it changes through that process. It's really cool that you have those available for people to check out.
Yeah, I tend to like get very attached to people. So like as far as I know, I have like a crew that I will work with forever until they decide that they don't want to do it anymore. But like it will always be O'Day until I'm told otherwise, I guess.
Hell yeah. That's really cool. You have like a nice like solid crew to work with on your music. I know that can be hard to find, so that is really cool that you feel like you have that kind of supportive team that has like everyone has something to contribute and make Scuttlefuzz like what it is.
Yeah.
I know it's kind of going off of the production stuff. I noted that in Together, this track Together, the vocal track was like a little less like affected and a little more dry than like the other tracks, which I thought was a really nice touch. It kind of broke up the like the production of the album so that it's not like so so consistent that your ear kind of just like gets used to it. Did you make the decision to do that, or was that part of the part of O'Day's production?
I would say it was a little bit of both. That song actually started out as a ballad, and I had sent it to Emmy after they had sent me like lyrics, and I like had sent it to them a telegram, and then like, you know those like moments where you share something with someone, and then after like a couple minutes you're like, wait, actually, let me work on that more. Because like in the excitement of just wanting to show someone something, your like inner critic doesn't like attack it too much. So I had sent something like very ballady, and we had like Emmy and I had like gone back and forth on like if it fits on the album, like how we can change it. So I think the fact that I think it's the only song on the album that doesn't have doubled vocals or like overdubs with it, kind of stems from like that original piece. Like I had just recorded like one vocal take and just ran through, and then I decided, you know what, we're gonna add some drums. We're gonna do a little breakdown. We're gonna add a little synth line, a little bass line part to it. And I think without me really needing to spell out like the ways that it was different in the track listing, I feel like O'Day kind of just like sensed that and kind of added to it, I guess.
Wow. So
which was pretty cool.
So you didn't even like specifically say like, hey, let's like, you know, try something different vocally on this. It was just kind of like part of what you already had and sent over to them. Mm-hmm. That's so cool.
Yeah, and I think that just comes from like the experience of us working together. Like with Keychain, we would go through like 4 or 5 or 6 iterations on a single song. And then eventually we just kind of like dialed in. Like they were like, all right, I think I know what you want. Like I know how weird to get with it, or like I know how much to push this aspect of something. So that's also one of the benefits of like working with someone over and over again, is you kind of get a feel for each other.
Yeah, for sure. That's really cool.
Yeah, I would say maybe one place where they did kind of push back a little bit was on Swim, which originally also only had one take. I like recorded more takes in order to like add to flesh out the verse and the chorus a bit at their suggestion. I think that worked out pretty well.
Yeah. When you say take, do you mean like different vocal tracks, or just like actual, like you sat down and recorded it all in one go?
So I just like would sing the melody again and then just have them play simultaneously.
Okay, so like doubling up the vocals.
Yeah, like I just doubled them up.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Just wanted to make sure I understood that. Very cool. Heck yeah. Let's see what I have not touched on. I was thinking about when you mentioned how you were going back and forth with Emmy about how one of the tracks would fit in. It made me think about like how, like what brought you to make this album in the first place, and like how did you go about deciding how the tracks would go together? Like, is there a common through line? Obviously it's called Ghosts, so maybe there's something there that kind of adds some theme to all the songs.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I feel like I should have a tighter answer to this question. So Ghosts didn't start out as an album. It was supposed to be another EP. I was going to just do a follow-up to Keychain. Actually, it was originally just called Idol, so I was going to take the song Idol, which I had released back in like 2018, like make that sound nicer, have O'Day work on it so that it like was up to the standard of like the music that I had released during Keychain, and then just like put a couple extra tracks on it.
Oh, interesting.
And then as I started like recording more music and like putting up demos on SoundCloud, or like showing like my partner at the time music, and like just kind of going back and forth, I was like, oh, maybe I could do an album. I should do an album. We've never done an album before. It's kind of like a bucket list sort of thing to release an album. Yeah. And that was like the only sort of drive, like just the idea to like get something done. And still didn't really have a name for it. Just knew it was an album. And then my partner and I broke up.
Oh.
So then I was like, So then it kind of became a little bit of a breakup album. So I had like written a few songs based on that, and it just sort of really like took it in a direction. I feel like it's all of the music that I've released as Scuttlefuzz is like very informed by like my relationships with people.
Yeah, it seems kind of romance centric for sure, just based on an outside perspective.
I had come to the title Ghosts because it was like the process of going through it, like writing. By going through it, I just mean like writing it and like recording things. I noticed like a lot of like different kinds of like themes in my head would pop up, and just like the idea of like looking back at things and like seeing like shades of yourself and like trying to like move on and like I guess trying to like flesh yourself out more fully and like looking back at like the way that you have been for the past few years and like kind of like almost like you're looking at a ghost. Not in like a negative way necessarily, but like I don't know, I just found that very I kept getting that image in my head. And then I had like incidentally was also doing like a Choco Friends cover as like a warm-up when I was making tracks for the album, and I chose Candy Coffin because that's one of my like favorite songs off of one of my favorite Choco Friends albums, Airplane. And there's like this repeating like refrain of hugging ghosts as tightly as you can, and I was like, all right, maybe this is a sign. Maybe I should just like take Ghosts as a title for the album.
Yeah, that's really cool. Kind of like a ghost of your former self kind of thing, maybe.
Yeah.
Ghost of your former life, relationship, all of the above.
Mm-hmm. And just like, you know, embracing that, but like kind of examining where you were, because I don't know, I was in a relationship for almost 10 years, 8 years.
Oh, wow.
Exactly.
Wow.
And it's just you sort of like, not so much in a negative way, but you like lose sight of yourself as you become more and more and more ingrained in like the life of another person. Like we were living very similar lives, and like all of a sudden I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah. Well, and even it seems like they had a part in kind of talking with this album, like even this album with you, like, you know, you talked about sharing you know, songs with them and getting their opinions on it. So yeah. I mean
yeah, I mean like we had to finish we lived together for like 3 more months after that. So, and we're still like, even to this day, like we're still like good friends. Like I was just messaging him like the other day. I sent him a TikTok today. But no, we would like sit in the living room and like listen to these demos. And he would like give me feedback on like track order or like, you know, just like things like that. 'Cause he's also a musician. So I feel like in that it's like, where was I going with this? I guess it's kind of weird because you're writing a breakup album about someone and showing it to that person, and they know what it's about, and you know that they know what it's about. But I think that just comes with like dating a musician, like
for sure. And it seems like you have a good relationship moving forward. So
yeah,
so that's good. That's cool. Very cool. I feel like that really kind of like speaks to a lot of the feelings of this album and kind of everything thematically between the music and everything. That's really cool to hear.
Yeah, I feel like Keychain, if I could like, when I was summarizing that in my mind, I was like, it's a very like cozy album. Like I I long for this like queer domesticity, just like this like deep comfort in like being with someone. And then Ghosts, I guess, is just like the other side of that, where you then have to kind of work through the fact that, all right, you're kind of on your own. Which is also weird because after that I had started to like ingrain myself more in like talking to friends, making connections with people, especially in like the furry community. So it's kind of at odds with itself because it's a very lonely feeling album to me, but it's also the most collaborative thing I've done.
Yeah, interesting. It's kind of a dichotomy in a way, but it's really cool. That's very cool. I love finding cool little contrast thingies.
Yeah.
It's very neat. It is definitely a very like ethereal album. I feel like it is very dreamy and like otherworldly, which I think goes along with the title, Ghosts.
Get me out of here, I don't know where to go.
Hey there, it's behind the scenes Hunty again, just dropping in for this little transition. Just wanted to break up this interview so that it kind of has a little more cohesiveness. I hope you enjoyed hearing about Will's latest release, and shortly we'll talk about Will's tape label, trickyStoop, where they release artists' material on cassette tape and distribute those tapes. Just as a brief aside, this interview that you're listening to obviously is on audio format. There's also going to be a video version, just with some animated talking heads. But there will also be a physical zine that you can check out if you're listening to this as it comes out. It'll be released later this year, or kind of maybe early next year in 2024. It's going to be kind of a recap of some music that I liked from 2023. So there will be a sort of written interview from kind of the highlights of this. So if you're interested, check that out at HMMMM Zine.com. That's 4 M's. On the website, you're able to subscribe to my email newsletter, and from that point, you'll get an email when I release the zine later on. I really don't send out much from my email newsletter, so I appreciate the subscription if you choose to do so. I'll leave you with the rest of this interview. At the end, I'll just have like a title card, so this will be the last you'll hearing from me behind the scenes. I appreciate you listening to this interview. Let me know what you think. Thank you. Enjoy. Bye-bye.
Never mind, don't let the
I would love to talk a little bit about trickyStoop as well, because I'm a big fan.
Yes. Hell yeah.
I think it is really cool that you're doing a tape record label, and specifically for furry music. So I'd love to hear kind of like what brought you to create it, like how, just how you operate it like day to day, and like any challenges that you may have faced in the whole process. When did you start it?
I guess technically it started in 2021 because I had used the name. Well, I had been using the name trickyStoop as like a label. You know, like when you do you use like when you upload music, like DistroKid and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
It was like there's a little space for you to put a label, and I was like, I don't fucking know. So I put in trickyStoop. Because I had the idea of starting a tape label for like such a long time. Before I had the money to, I had the idea. But it
nice.
like started with Mount Stupid, the Puppy Breath / like Hello Tiger album in like October of 2021.
Yeah.
That was the first time I had like put out music by someone else. But the first actual tape release would have been Keychain. But I don't like count that. Like when we do the anniversary stuff, I consider the birth of the label as being October.
Okay. Like the first time you released someone else's music, like officially.
Yeah.
Yeah. Heck yeah. That's really rad. So you said it was like something you've wanted to do for a long time. What like made you finally, kind of have the means to do it? Like, because I don't even know what all goes into like recording tapes and stuff. That seems like a whole process.
Yeah, I guess to start with that, I don't record the tapes myself. I like part of like the way that I'm able to juggle the label with doing everything else, and like my day job stuff is I kind of like delegate things. So for the past year or so, I've been working with actually another tape label based in Chicago called Blue Light Tapes, specifically this guy named John. So I like get all of the material together, and then he like does the runs. Like he actually like goes through the process of recording the tapes. But
that's really cool.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I mean, how did you connect with this person?
Twitter. It's gonna be very sad when the site finally dies, because I feel like a lot of the answers to these questions are Twitter. Yeah,
I know. Oh my god. So just like found the record label, or found this person that does tapes, and you were like, yo, I want to do tapes.
Yeah, so I had originally done runs through other people, and then was like looking for someone who mostly did smaller runs. And I had seen he had like shared that he was looking for more work because he had like dubbed tapes before. I know he did a release for Ashley 9 Live, so like Ashley was like, yeah, like reach out to him, he's great. And it turns out he was great. So
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
it's a mutual kind of thing. That's so cool. Okay, so you kind of operate it out of this person's house, or not house, but their own separate tape company. That's really cool.
Yeah, so like I'll like help often like the artist like with the design of it, and then I'll kind of give him all of the pieces, and he'll put it together and mail it to me.
Wow.
And then I go through like the distribution and like sending it to everyone.
Yeah, so you do all that process yourself as far as postage and that whole thing.
Yeah, it's like a little monthly ritual of mine.
I
just put on a couple albums and just spend a while fulfilling orders.
That's so cute. Oh my gosh, that is so awesome.
But yeah, I've I guess I've had the idea to do this since like I want to say like 2016. That's when I started like just recording little things on my computer by myself, and had like started looking for places to upload it. And then that's when I found SoundCloud and like the like little universe of SoundCloud producers. And then from there I'd found like artists like Laptop Funeral, and then was like, oh, they also put things out on Bandcamp. And then I just fell into like the rabbit hole of like Bandcamp like tape labels, like Zed Tapes and like Disposable America, and I was like, this is really freaking cool. Why don't I do this? I love this. Yeah. So I started like collecting tapes around then. And then I had come across 2 releases, both of which happened to be furry. But the thing is, I don't really know how I found them, because I wasn't looking for furry music at the time. But the first one that I'd stumbled across, I think through just like Bandcamp tag digging, was Choco Friends. It was her 2017 release Airplane, and I had seen that she had released tapes of her last album, but she had done like 15 of them through like a very small tape label. And I like messaged her through the Bandcamp forum, and I was like, hey, like I really love your music. You don't have any more tapes for sale. I love Airplane. Do you plan on releasing tapes ever? And she was like, yeah, I don't know. not sure. So then in my head, I was like filing that away, like, okay, I'm going to start a tape label. I'm going to release this on tape. And like basically the same thing happened with the album Hey by Kendall, which had come out sort of around the same time. I like had sent Brew an email and I was like, hey, I love this. Any plans on it being on tape? And kind of like got a similar thing like, oh yeah, maybe, I don't know. So like fast forward a couple years now and I've been able to put out both of those. So that's cool. It's been like really cool to kind of I see it as kind of like preservation, even though tapes are like, you know, they're gonna eventually degrade, but just like documenting this like slice of like the DIY scene that doesn't really get a lot of attention on it. There's like this whole community of musicians who I think are like a perfect fit for tape and like just need their music released physically. Like I feel like we need evidence that like all of this shit exists, and the response to it's been really cool.
Yeah, as it should be. It is an awesome thing that I'm really glad that you took the took that jump to do, because it's quite a, I feel like it's quite a service to the community, both the, you know, specifically the furry musician world, which, like you said, is consistently underappreciated. You know, being in a community that's so kind of visually art focused, it's I feel like it's kind of hard to get you know, more of a consistent group interested in the more musical side of the fandom. So I think it genuinely helps to have that sort of like that label aspect of like, hey, this is all music that, like, you know, you personally are like, hey, you should check this out. Like, it's basically like a cool way of grouping musicians and putting them out together under one moniker to kind of be like, yo, you should check this out.
Yeah,
it's very cool.
Thank you. I'm really happy with how it turned out. And it's funny because when I started doing this, I didn't even really intend for it to be a furry label. It's just that's kind of the people that I talk to, and like the music that I happen to like run into really often, and I'm like, I don't know. I just kind of want this to exist. I want to hold this in my hand. I want to put this on my shelf. I want to listen to it on my tape deck. So yeah, it's like, I guess it's kind of like, I don't know if I'm using the Latin right, like de facto a furry label, but I mean, if someone comes along and wants to like submit and it's like a good fit musically, like I'm not gonna say no. But...
Yeah, right. Yeah, I get that. It definitely fits in with like a certain niche that probably hasn't really been highlighted before. So I think you're doing well in that regard.
Yeah. And like even within furry music, I feel like a lot of the attention has been on like the split between like a lot of like electronic stuff, and then like filk music, like your Pepper Coyotes. Not that either of those are bad. It's just like that's not really what I listen to. So what I've been finding really cool is like all of this music has always existed. It's just that like when you form like a thing, like a label, it kind of brings a lot of people to you. So I've just been like all of a sudden exposed to all of these musicians who happen to be furries, who are making like lo-fi rock music or like Casio pop or like electronica, and it's like, wow, there's like a whole community for this. This is really awesome.
Yeah, and I feel like trickyStoop definitely like brings that together more as like a physical like a real thing, a real like community that people can be like can kind of latch onto and say like, oh, this is kind of like a brand of furry music, whereas in the past like people only thought furry music was like EDM and just that it's kind of breaks the mold in a really cool way of saying like, well, furry music can also be like this, and it can kind of meld with the world of music as a whole, in a way that feels really natural and also stays true to kind of the community as a whole.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I just think it's pretty dang cool what you got going on.
Thank you. I've always told people, like, you know, when we put out a tape, like, we're only so large. My dream is for someone to like blow up and just like leave. Like, I'm always like, get really famous and like get out of here.
Yeah.
But I hope my big goal with this is for it to like stay within like its means and just exist for a long time, because I think that like over time, as we like go through rounds of like opening up submissions and stuff, like it's really like cool knowing that there are people who want to work with us, and just the idea of there being like this very visible scene that shows people that like, oh, I can have like my music, I can have an audience for my music that's like informed by like being like queer and being a furry. Like I think that it's a cool position that I find myself in. But I'm also like not alone. There are a lot of, I feel like we're in kind of like a renaissance. There are a lot of cool labels that are like furry run through doing very similar things, which is really awesome.
Yeah. It is absolutely very cool that you can give a voice to people that feel like they probably can't, especially in the, you know, really hyper competitive music industry. It's really nice to see kind of what's the word for it? I mean, just underground musicians in general having a platform to get like, you know, not huge, not like blown up on like a Sony Music kind of level, but a place where people who are like-minded can find their music and enjoy it and support them in like really physical ways.
Yeah.
My I definitely am trying to kind of capture that with this music zine and kind of supporting other musicians kind of going forward and trying to make shows happen, because I love to see music being released physically. I really want to see more like live shows happening, because that's kind of like my bread and butter is like live music. I think it's so cool, and y'all are doing that too, because like I saw you put on a show at Anthrocon and in a little hotel room, and that hotel room was packed out. So I want to see some shit like on like a stage. I want to get it out there.
Yeah, that would be really awesome. Gosh, you have Ashley mostly to thank for organizing all that. They that was their baby. But yeah, I totally agree. I think the live music, bringing it to events, bringing it to people. Were you at FunaFest?
I wasn't. I think that was in was that in
I think it was like
Washington?
in June.
I mean, physical location.
Oh, it was in Baltimore.
Baltimore.
And then I think the one that was in Washington was the Friends House Records one.
Okay.
Which was like in August. But yeah, like
I've heard and seen videos, and I'm very stoked to see it.
Yeah, my dream is to like have there be enough infrastructure where like a musician could basically just like play shows year round, like these like annual things that pop up. So like having one in the winter, having one in the summer, in the spring, that like kind of like coincide to make like a little release schedule, like a tour schedule. I think that'd be really awesome.
Yeah.
Someone who has more time than me. Maybe that's something for you.
Oh gosh.
So no, I know you're going on tour soon, right?
Yeah, like in a couple days.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an experienced like person in that realm at this point, so I would love to like share what I know and what I like what I've learned on the road as far as like how this works and how people can do it. It's been on my mind that I want to like make a like a zine, I think is probably the best way to do it. Just like a zine for, hey, you're a musician, and like, probably directed at furry musicians because I want to see them specifically getting out on the road. But like, yo, you're a furry musician. You have like some music that you've released. Let's like get you out on the road. Like here's 10 steps to how to make that happen. Like,
God, yeah.
I really want to try to encourage that because I think it is something really cool and really, I think it's a lot more feasible than people think it is. So I'd love to kind of break down that barrier of like, being a touring musician is like something that only people who are signed to big labels do or anything like that, because my little metalcore band has been doing it for like fucking probably like 6 or 7 years at this point, and we have been on nothing but DIY labels run by like people in the band, so
It's really fucking cool.
So it's absolutely feasible, and I don't know everything about it, but I can at least impart what I do know. Try to get people out there.
Yeah, because like what you were saying, it feels like such a big lift for someone. Like I personally don't even know how to start going about that. Like even if I were like trying to help facilitate like someone on the label doing that, like so I just feel like like being able to like disseminate that kind of knowledge would be like really cool, especially because you've been doing it for so long.
Yeah.
How did you get into like because you said Blind Tiger was around for like 6 years now? 6 years?
They've been a band since like 2014 was like the first release that they did. I joined as a touring full-time bassist in 2018. So I've been personally touring with them since, how many years is that? Like 5 years, pretty much. A little bit over that, maybe.
Nice.
Yeah. But they were touring, I want to say since like 2015, 2016. Yeah. So as a band collectively, like 7 or 8 years probably. And it's been a blast. Really it's very fun. And it's also something that's like, this band is consistently either 4 or 5 members, depending on whether or not we can get our trumpetist / synth player to come with us on the road. But doing it that way has just been like not it's not incredibly profitable at this point, which we're working towards that, and there's things that you can do to like grow and up the rates that you're asking for on the road and stuff like that. But a lot of furry musicians are like one person acts, it seems like. So I think specifically those types of projects are like super like feasible in terms of like, if you're a musician that likes to travel, like you're pretty much set up to make a tour happen and actually come back with money. Like I think it's completely possible to do, and fairly easy at that. Like I said, if traveling and not ideal, less than ideal sleeping conditions and like road time and stuff like that aren't a big deal, then then yeah, touring is feasible. And I mean, we stay at a lot of people's houses to save money, but
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I feel like when it comes to like DIY, like a lot of it's so community based that you could probably just like hopefully crash somewhere if you're.
yeah, I mean, I've hit up people that I met from either like Twitter, or I used to have Howler back in the day whenever that was a thing. I have Bark now, and I'll just like, even like before, like the days before, like I have my location set to like Orlando right now. And I'll just put on my profile like, hey, I'm a touring musician. Like hit me up for the details to the show, and if you want to let me crash at your place, then then I would love that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I will say, if you are ever in Boston, if y'all ever come up here.
I mental note already taken. Appreciate it. Anywho, tell me where, like, so for Ghosts, where is the best place to listen, and support your music? And then you can go ahead and say where the best place to check out trickyStoop is, and all that whole thing.
Yeah, so I guess you can check out Ghosts on Bandcamp, scuttlefuzz.bandcamp.com. If you like streaming, it's like available pretty much everywhere. I'm totally cool with either. When it comes to trickyStoop, we have tapes for sale. Usually by the time you get to them, they're sold out because we do very small runs. We are a perpetually sold out tape label, but we sell stickers and stuff too. So you can check us out at trickystoop.bandcamp.com or even trickystoop.com. I think that redirects. We're all over Bandcamp. Most of the musicians who release to the label are like on streaming stuff.
Mm-hmm. So go to Bandcamp, give all the musicians your money, because you can actually pay for music on there and download
Yes.
it. Nice, lovely audio files and all that jazz.
And if you buy a tape, 100% of the profits from tape sales go to the musician who is putting that out. So really great way to support like independent artists.
Yeah, incredible. Love it. Incredible stuff. Thank you for doing this interview.
Thank you for having me. This is very fun.
Yeah, I'm glad it could be a chill, fun experience, because that is absolutely what I'm going for. Yeah,